Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Countdown to Tipoff show here live from the Finneran Pavilion as Wildcats prepare to take on the Marquette Golden Eagles. I'm Steve Pannone. I'm joined by Whitey Rigsby tonight. Whitey, the Wildcats went out to Milwaukee early in the Big East season. Were defeated by these Golden Eagles. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, it's always difficult, as you know, Steve, from being around a long time to play on the road. That was an early road game in the Big East season for the Wildcats. I think coming home, they'll have much better success on the home court. The Wildcats face a tough foe and one of the best players in the country, best single players in the country, Marcus Howard.
Speaking about great players and some of the best players in the country, tonight's also a special night here at Villanova for Ryan Arcidiacono. He'll have his jersey retired. You got to see all of Ryan's 4 years here at Villanova. What made him such a special player?
Well, there's just so many things that go into Ryan Arcidiacono as a player, as a person, as a kid. And if you think, Steve, over the years, the great point guards that have played in this league, there's been none more successful at the collegiate level than Ryan Arcidiacono. He did so much for this team. He did so much for this program. But just as a basketball player, he did everything. He could shoot the ball. He could pass the ball. He could run a team. We've had no one better running a team than he was. Shoot, Steve, he was a captain as a freshman. Yeah. So, I mean, he did everything out on the court, and he was a leader. He was diving in the stand. He's known more than anything. This guy who dives in the stands and takes charge, played physical. He probably should have played football, could have been a heck of a football player. He played basketball like a football player, but no one ever played harder than Ryan Arcidiacono.
Yeah, and I think one of the things Jay Wright always talked about when he mentioned Ryan, he said he always knew what the team needed to do to win the ball game. If that was shooting the ball, passing the ball, playing defense, he always – whatever it took to win was what Ryan did late in games.
Yeah, and you and I talk off the air all the time. We talk about winning plays and winning players. This kid was both. Yeah. He made winning plays in games. He was a winning player. I mean, he started 143 games in his career. It's absurd, something like that. Yeah. I mean, all but one game he started his career, and again, was captain for 4 years.
And you've known the Arcidiacono family for a long time. What kind of kid was Ryan off the court?
Well, again, I know Joe Arcidiacono lived down the hall from me in Sullivan Hall many years ago, and he was a football player, very good football player here. The kid off the court is the best. I mean, he's who everybody wants is their son. He's just a good kid. He's represented Villanova so well. And I say, and again, I go back a long way, and some of the older guys might disagree with this, I think he's the most iconic player in the history of Villanova basketball. And if you think of that, it's a really big statement, but you tell me who's better. Howard Porter was a phenomenal player. Ed Pinckney. Mm-hmm. I mean, go through Jalen Brunson. But this kid changed it. He brought the first championship we had in 31 years.
And talk about how he changed the program. I always think of he came in after a losing season. A kid who had an injury his senior year in high school was unable to play his senior year, and then came in and really just turned the program around his freshman season.
Yeah, that's the thing. Think about it. He didn't play for a full year, so it was probably almost a year and a half before he played real basketball. Got on the court here at Villanova, and I remember talking to Coach Wright early on because I knew the kid, I knew the family. I wanted to so what do you think of this kid? Not thinking he was going to come in and play. He says, I don't know how I'm going to keep him off the court. And he never found a way to keep him off the court because he was on the court all the time, as well he should. And I think from a teammate perspective, we travel with the team. We're with these guys all the time. I think he was a great teammate. I think his teammates really respected for how hard he played, how hard he worked on and off the court, and how great a leader he was.
No doubt about it. And I think from a changing of the program mindset, Coach Wright had gone to a Final Four in 2009. They had that slip up the year before Ryan came in. I always look at three players that, since I've been around, that I remember that have come in freshmen and really changed the program. First one I think of is John Pannone, as he came in as a freshman. And then the next one I always go to is Scotty Reynolds. He came in after losing Foy and Ray and all those guys and kept the program afloat. And then Ryan Arcidiacono just took it to a different level.
Again, from talking to me, John Pannone, he happened to be your brother, was one of the toughest players, one of my favorite players to watch play. To this day, he's still kind of tough and miserable. We saw him the other day, right? Scotty Reynolds I looked at as a connector piece between Coach Wright's first recruiting class and the Arcidiacono era. Took him to the NCAA tournament 4 years in a row. Yeah. When you talk about Ryan Arcidiacono, though, we talk about all these off-the-court things and playing hard. He scored over 1,400 points his career. He's still number 4 on the all-time assist record. So he technically, in games, he did a lot of really good things.
Yeah, talk about technical. What made him so fundamentally sound? Why was he such a good player, I think, fundamentally?
I think because he was one of those guys that didn't make a lot of mistakes. And if he made a mistake, he made up for it in hustle. Made up for it in hustle on both ends of the court. And again, he did make mistakes. He did miss shots. He did sit and make mistakes. This kid wasn't perfect, anything from that. But he was perfect as far as how hard he always played.
And speaking about perfect, he had the perfect ending. His last game of his career, the last time he had the ball in the hand, he flipped it back to Chris Jenkins for a national championship in 2016.
And I talked to Chris Jenkins literally just the other day about that play. Off the air, just he and I just talking about, actually might have been on the air there in Butler, and he says, I just knew, Chris inbounded the ball, he said, I just knew that the play, that they weren't guarding the inbounder. But that play was really for Arch to quote unquote, as you'd say, make a play. Arch, make a play. Not only, what people didn't see technically in that play is when he handed it to Jenkins, he literally set a screen for him as well and created a lot of space for a great, maybe the best shooter in the country at that time.
And speaking of Chris and Arch, we had an opportunity to get that group together this summer, and it was a little segue into the 2016 team.
It was the end of a magical road in 2016 when the Wildcats arrived at NRG Stadium in Houston for a memorable Final Four.
Since we have the whole 16, like at what point in our 2016 run were you like, oh, we're gonna win the national championship?
Never. Ever. Not even when we was up 10 with a minute 30.
It wasn't even like that, but I'm saying like when were you like, all right, we can make it to the national championship game?
No, like be honest with you, whenever we went out there, like I never really thought about what was gonna happen in the future. Like I never even thought about, all right, we have a chance to win a national championship. That never crossed my mind. I never really thought about it.
I would say maybe after the Kansas game in my mind was when it was like, all right, we're the real deal.
Hart now attacking the rim, goes up.
Think about it, like I didn't realize, I watched the game the other day, like a couple months ago. We weren't up like 20 until like the last 10 minutes.
Shot clock at 10, spinning, hanging, off the glass and good on an unbelievable take by the junior Josh Hart.
So, you know, with Coach, it was like, it was always you had to jump, like you had to get in the paint, jump start, all that. And so after, I think it was like my junior and senior year, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just take one or two dribbles, hit a crazy jump stop in the lane, hit about 2 pivots, make it look like I'm passing, and this thing is going up. Boy, if you look at when we played Oklahoma, bro, and I think Buddy was guarding me, bro. I jump stopped, it was in the second half. I was in the, first of all, it was in 3 seconds. I was probably in the paint for like 6 seconds. I pivot like 5 times, shot like a contested, like fadeaway, like free throw line jumper.
And he's got to fire a jumper and nails it, a 17-footer falling away.
Coach looked at me, he was like, Josh, you gotta pass the ball. I was like, Coach, nobody was open. I pivoted a couple times, I ain't see him.
You were the only one if you was driving and I'm down the porch, I know I'm not getting the ball. You're the only person.
But it was to the point where we didn't want you to pass because we like, all right, he gonna score. Don't think about passing. We don't want to mess up this train of thought. So just score. We don't want you to pass it. No, score, Josh. You right there at the basket. Just lay that train up.
Here in Houston, Texas, we are ready to go, counting down the final 40 minutes. The captain.
Archie Thriakino. That was a dagger.
At one point in the game, we thought we really had, we were up 10-1-30. We was like,
we should have beat him by like 15.
Yeah. So the end of that game, you threw it to me, and I see Chris in the opposite corner. But I'm just thinking, like, bro, if I throw this ball and it's a turnover, bro, it's a wrap. So I'm like, I'll just take the foul. This man, Chris, walks up to me, he's like, well, you better make 2. I said, oh my God. This is the most important free throws of my life.
At that point, I didn't care that he missed me on the back. You better make these joints. We actually need these. There ain't no other thing. Hey, I didn't care about nothing else. You better make these joints right here. Listen to me.
The first one I made, I ain't gonna lie, like this, like, you know, like dude be like, yeah, nah, I had it, like, nah, I was good. Boy, I came up. I shot it, I thought it was short. It like grazed like the back of the rim and went in. I was like, whoo. I said, we up 2. Even if I missed, the second one I think like was cast, but that first one, I was like, this man Chris, like, you better make 2. I'm just looking like.
That's my fault.
The serious question, no, real talk, the serious question. If Chris doesn't make that shot, do you guys have confidence that we're gonna win that game?
They had the momentum, but you know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and say I thought we was gonna lose.
We would have to really regather. I just know that. I will leave it at that.
We gotta start hydrating.
For more, visit Villanova Basketball online, on social media, and on the Villanova Athletics app.
All right, you got to go back to Saturday down at the Wells Fargo Center. Wildcats lose a tough one to a really good Seton Hall team. Let's start with the positive. What did Villanova do well in that game that you saw?
20,706 Wildcat fans. Nova Nation was out in full force. You know what? I thought they played pretty hard most of the game. I knew that Seton Hall team would be difficult for them because they have rim protectors. That seems to have bothered Jeremiah Robinson all this season when they're big, tall people in and around the basket. He only shot 4 for 15, had 14 rebounds. He manages to put numbers up all the time, but he needs to finish around the basket. Do a better job finishing around the basket. What they did well, they made 9 threes. Sadiq Bey scored 22 points. Sadiq Bey had another big basketball game. And I think they competed. They made a big comeback in the first half to take a lead in the first half, but they got hurt a little bit on the boards, got hurt a little bit with their strength in and around the basket.
Yeah. And talking about Sadiq Bey, who played well for Villanova, I think it's obviously been Sadiq Bey just about throughout this whole season. What have you seen that has evolved from him from freshman year to sophomore year?
Well, one thing now, Steve, he's a guy now when he gets an open three-pointer, he makes it. He has the ball in his hands. He's making those open 3-pointers where he wasn't a year ago, right? I mean, he's a physical, tough player. He's as physical a tough player as anyone on our team, maybe in this league. And the other thing he does, he guards all positions now. It's very rare that Coach Wright doesn't have him on the other team's best player. Whether that best player is 5'10" Marcus Howard, which we'll see tonight, or if it's a bigger guy, he plays the other team's best player.
And now Villanova obviously has some room to improve coming into this game tonight, coming off that tough loss to Seton Hall. Coach Wright always says, I want to be playing my best basketball at the end of the year. What do you think the Wildcats need to improve on so they can be playing their best basketball come March?
Well, I think this team as a group, in particular the young kids, need to physically get a little stronger. Jeremiah Robinson, like I said, is a very skilled, talented player, needs to get stronger. Justin Moore needs to get stronger. Obviously, Brian Antoine, we haven't seen as much of him, physically needs to get stronger. And that's something that happens now, but it also happens a lot during the offseason. I just think they need to become more consistent and get more help. It can't be Colin Gillespie and Sadiq Bey. They need some other people involved offensively.
And you talk about that strength. It's usually those freshman kids. You mentioned Jeremiah Robinson, Earl, Brian Antoine, Justin Moore. Strength is such an important part. What do you talk about? Let's talk about what John Shackleton has done with his group. And here's a quick segue into strength and conditioning coach John Shackleton.
We'll go step out with the right foot, lunge, step right through, high reach. Stay on that same side. Tell you when to switch. Here we go.
When freshmen come in the summer, it's an educational process for them, and it's also an evaluation process for Shaq. He's evaluating their flexibility, their mobility, their past lifting experiences.
Good. All right, let's roll. 2 guys to a rack.
For John Shackleton, this is more than just a job. It's a lifestyle, 24/7.
A lot of times he lifts early before us, so he already comes in and we already see him working hard, and it's easy just to follow somebody who lives by his own work and just shows like what his diet is, what his nutrition is. He's not telling us to eat well and eat certain things and he's not doing it, but he is doing it.
I'd better be doing it myself or else I'm a fraud. It allows me to function at a high level as a performance coach. Because if I didn't do all this and my players knew about it, they wouldn't be buying in.
Shaq's a role model to our guys in every way. Not just the way he lives his life and the way he conditions himself, but by the way that he's trying to get better personally at what he does every day.
You know, when I first got in the field, a lot of strength coaches would say, well, that's not our job to be a nutritionist because we're strength coaches or we're performance coaches. Or maybe it's not our job to do the hydration testing and the exercise science part of it. You know, but then when coach said, hey, I want you to do, when I came in, I want you to do nutrition. I was like open to it. I wanted to do it. You got to take into consideration all the factors that can help an athlete become the best they can be.
Before in high school, I didn't really pay attention to the way I ate. I just ate whatever I want, go play Skittles before game, burgers after. But here it's like strictly diet, and it helps you perform on the court. You're not getting tired as quick, you're moving better.
Good, drive all the way to the top. That's it, get that bar to rattle.
I came in at like 210. By the end of the summer, I was 230. And then we look at it and we're like, okay, well, I'm not moving as well as I want to, so let's talk about that. And then Shaq, you know, all right, well, let's come down to 223, 225, 220. Let's see how that goes. And then, you know, now I'm moving a little bit better. Now I jump a little bit better. My knees don't hurt as much. I can still be as physical as I want and still be as agile as I want.
Samuel's flying in, layup is good and he's fouled. What a take!
When we lift or when we work out, you never really see it saying like, oh, this is hurting my shot or this is hurting my game. If anything, it's helping with more explosiveness, more mobility.
And through his years with the Villanova program, while Shaq has evolved as a coach, he's helped mold talented young players into strong and conditioned professional athletes.
When I first got the job, he asked me, why should we give you the job? I was just like, I was young, And I said, I'll tell you right now, I know I'm the best in the field. I was just cocky, so I had to do it in the interview. This is how I felt. He's like, why are you the best? And I couldn't really explain it at first. Looking back and what it is, it's all like details. I got like obsessive compulsive in a way with training. Like every little detail how a guy moves, I'm like really into it, where I know most coaches aren't like that. When guys leave and they come back, it kind of verifies to me there's a reason why they're coming back, because they're realizing they're doing the same stuff with the other teams. They're just not getting coached, or they're not into the details as if like I am.
The professional guys that did play here with Shaq, they understand, you know, how important that is to them, and they always come back to get refreshed and to work out with Shaq. And they also realize how much it's changed their outlook on life in terms of their health, their nutrition, and their futures. Shaq wants them to be at elite level performance now, but have an understanding about conditioning and a healthy lifestyle for the rest of their life.
It's hard work. You got to work hard, day after day, month, year, over time, and then to see it come to the end where the guys are like performing at their best and they can go into the league. I mean, yeah, it's an unbelievable feeling.
You see the job that John Shacklin has done with this group and what he'll continue to do. And one of his main projects this year is the young Eric Dixon, the freshman who's redshirting this season. And what have you seen from Eric, let's say in practice, where you had an opportunity to watch him play?
Well, I saw Eric Dixon play as a freshman at Abington High School. Really big, strong, skilled, very skilled kid. But he has done such a great job on his own before he got here, toning his body, making himself look like a basketball player now. And I think the opportunity he has over this year to work with John Shacklin, to work in the gym. But what he is more than anything, for a big guy, he's very skilled. He can catch, he can shoot from outside. And I think as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more from Eric Dixon and his progress.
It's the picture of a star of almost mythic proportions. And to anyone who followed the brilliant high school career of Abington's Eric Dixon, there was little doubt where the road was headed. More than 2,000 career points and the Pennsylvania State Player of the Year as a senior, and a unique combination of touch outside and strength inside. But now his career is reloading this season as he tries to get even better.
You gotta be able to take it in and say, like, okay, I'm not gonna be playing, but I have to get better. So that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you see the people you play with every day out there on the floor in games, and then you're sitting there on the sideline, but you also have to bring it in practice, which isn't a game. It's a tough mindset to have, but it's a mindset you gotta have in order to get better.
I've never had to go through it before, so it's been totally different for me. Definitely, like, I would say a humbling experience, you know, just like to come in and like think you're gonna like do this and that, and then you realize you take a step back and, you know, work harder and get better. My family always like refer to it as like having a whole bunch of like homework with no tests coming up, or like SAT prep with no SAT.
It's hard for them to understand, I've got to be patient, I've got to go through a process, I've got to put in a lot of hard work and not initially get quick results. But we're fortunate with Eric that he's got an incredible family and support system that are very intelligent. He's got a great perspective, and he's doing an outstanding job preparing himself for next season.
You can feel the payoff. Like, I can feel like myself getting better every day.
The first area of focus is fundamental to playing Villanova basketball. Finding an approach which maximizes his abilities as a defender.
Keeping up with the intensity, you know, staying locked in for a full possession, whether it be staying in my stance or keep head turning, knowing my man is off the ball. I would say a lot of my improvement needs to be made on like the defensive end of the floor and open like in transition. You know, it helps that I have Caleb with me, going through the same thing. You know, I know he feels the same way. He just wants to get out there, wants to play, especially when you feel like you can help with something, you know, set a screen, box somebody out. Even in practice, even if he had to work out before our practice, he still comes into practice learning how to do what we do and play hard. And I'm proud of him because I see the extra work that he puts in, and just seeing that every day, it just helps me as a leader on this team just to be able to trust the young guys.
And there are plenty of those with a freshman class of 5. But like all new classes, this one helps to push each other on the floor and support each other off it. A bond that's special comes from shared experience.
Same kind of classes, you know, meet the same kind of people outside of the team, go through the same experiences, don't really know what to expect, so you just talk about it, like, oh, like,
it's gonna be like this, or then afterwards, like, oh, it was like that, you know? So it's just that kind of thing. It's good to have people around me that I can like bounce questions off of.
Many of the questions at this time in Eric's development are answered by the head coach, and the trust of knowing his growth in the game is in the correct hands comes from a track record of talented high school players who've come to Villanova looking to become more complete and carving a successful journey.
This place has a great track record with them, a good history. You know, came here because Coach Wright is so knowledgeable.
Think about the guys that have had, set out and actually worked on their games, whether they had to or not. Dante DiVincenzo, Omari Spellman, Eric Pascal, I want to say Phil Booth.
And what's really cool is those guys will talk to Eric too and explain to them the value and the growth that they had during that season and how it paid great dividends for them.
They end up having some of the best Villanova careers of all time. So with his skill set, he can shoot threes, he can pass, extremely gifted, extremely talented. When he figures all those, how to play hard at this level, that kid's gonna be unbelievable.
The recent class of Villanova stars isn't the only example. There was also one who played a part in his young life, Villanova legend Gary Massey, Eric's high school assistant coach, who waited until Dixon's senior year to let him in on his past life.
Shocking, to say the least. Because I think the way I found out is we pulled up a video like the top 50 college dunks on YouTube.
Massey, oh my! Oh my!
He never ever told me that he went here. Like, it was like after I committed and like that he had told that he had said anything about it. Just to see how he carried himself day-to-day life, the type of father he is, type of coach he is, it's inspiring. It's definitely a comforting feeling to know that no matter what happens, if you want to, you can develop to being that kind of person.
Well, I agree. I think Eric Dixon's going to have a heck of a career here as he moves forward in his next 4 years here at Villanova.
Plus he's lefty.
Yes,
like
gotta love
lefties.
left-handers. No doubt about that. But let's talk about tonight. Obviously, a big matchup. Both teams come in 17-6, 7-4 in the league. So second place on the line tonight in this game. I think it's easy who to watch for Marquette, but I'll throw it to you that way.
Yeah, there's no question. Marcus Howard is truly at 5'10", one of the best players in the country, not just best guards, one of the best players in the country. Averages 27 points a game. You have to know where he is all the time. He can be efficient, doesn't always have to shoot the ball 25 times like we see some other guys doing. One thing he does that's very interesting to me in watching basketball is gets to the foul line.
Yes, he does.
He gets to the foul line. He was 12 for 12 the first time the Wildcats played him out there. For a 5'10" guy to get to the foul line that much is really unusual.
And I think what they've done as a team, Marquette, that's really helped them out, if they've gotten some help. When they lost the two Howler brothers to transfer last year, everyone said, who's going to pick up the slack? And senior Sakari Adam has really stepped up for them.
Yeah, he's a guy who is known as a defensive player. We always talk about the fact at this level, you don't recruit defensive players. But he came in as a defensive player on that team, right? He's still a very good defensive player, but now he's their second leading scorer as well. He can shoot the ball from outside a little bit. He's not a killer at three-point line, but he can make enough threes where you have to go out and guard him.
And then off the bench, a player who hurt Villanova out in Milwaukee, Kobe McCune has really stepped out. A huge game at Xavier. He could be a big key off the bench for Marquette tonight.
He's a guy, and he hurt Villanova too out there for sure because he can score from outside. He also went to the foul line an awful lot. Again, I think they took like 36 foul shots to Villanova's 6 or some ridiculous number offset that time. So Villanova doesn't get to the foul line that much. They need to get to the foul line a little more in this one, force their inside people to play defense. But, interesting thought about this is that Theo John tends to get in foul trouble. They're a big guy. Marcus Howard gets in foul trouble. He's got in foul trouble here last year. Last year when we played Marquette in this building, we had coming off 3 losses. And we beat Marquette here, and they stumbled the rest of the way, and we ended up finishing first.
And I think some of the key matchups, you talked about earlier, Sadiq Bey, where Coach Wright has that confidence to put him on guards, forwards, even post players at some point. You think you'll start him on Howard tonight?
I'd be very surprised. He guards the other team's best player by and large all the time. He has a length. Now Marcus Howard's going to certainly try to get by him, but if you think about it, Steve, if he gets by him, he's shooting 2s, not 3s, as opposed to him shooting over some of the smaller players. So I think to get by Sadiq Bey, then you're going to have to just get some help. And they don't have a lot of big inside scorers. They can't throw the ball up in the air to Romaro Gill like Seton Hall could. Now Theo John's a big, strong, tough kid. And if you remember the game out in Milwaukee, he did a great job protecting the rim. Had 4 or 5 block shots himself.
Yeah, obviously a big game for both teams. What do you think Villanova wants to play this game in the 60s? That's where they've been effective all year long. When they go out to Butler and you play a 79-76 game, not really the style of play that Coach Wright wants with this young group.
No, we don't have enough scores. We don't have enough scores to play those 75, 85 point games. When we were going through our winning streak, we were winning a lot of games in January there. We were playing games holding our opponent to 59 points, to 61 points. This has to be the same way. If this game gets up into this mid to high 70, I think it's going to be a problem for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and lately it's kind of been Sadiq Bey and Colin Gillespie have been the go-to guys. Jermaine Samuels gets nicked up in Providence, misses that second half. It's been slow to come back from injury. Had a good first 10 minutes against Seton Hall. You're going to need him tonight.
Yeah, he scored 10 of the first 13 points against Seton Hall the other day. We say, okay, he's back, he's going to do well. I'm not sure he took 2 shots the rest of the game after that, and I think he's battling a couple of different injuries, a stomach injury, a foot injury, a leg injury, so hopefully he's better as each day goes by because they need him. They need him on both ends of the court. He's another option offensively, and he's a tremendous defensive player.
And you mentioned this game last year, he broke out with a career-high 29 points against Marquette with some big shots down the stretch and was really the difference in that game, which kind of, as you said, propelled Villanova's season to a Big East regular season championship, and Marquette slipped the rest of the way and ended up finishing second.
They really did. And also, you always say, you talk about, you play better at home. Shooters shoot better at home. So getting Justin Moore back on this court, getting Jeremiah Robinson back on this court, I expect a much better output from them offensively. I'm looking for a Wildcat win tonight for sure, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting next to you and I have a veto on my chest. I just think Villanova's going to come out strong tonight, play well, shut Marcus Howard down to some degree, and certainly shut the other 4 guys down.
Well, that'll finish it up for the Countdown to Tip-Off show. Let's go Cats.